Hey guys, my name's Chris and I'm here to help you become a millionaire. What makes me qualified to do that? What makes me different than everybody else out there with their own fantasy website or their own fantasy advice? Pay this much, subscribe, whatever. Well, I'm not asking you to pay anything. I'm just going to tell you how to become a millionaire. And what makes me qualified? Well, week 2 of this past NFL season on FanDuel, I won first place. And first place just happened to be $1 million. I didn't do it with any fancy computers. I didn't do it with any fancy algorithms. None of that. But I did win. A $7 entry got me $1 million. Life changing. You want your life changed? You want to know what you're doing wrong? You want to know how to improve what you're doing right and make it better? This is where to be. So please subscribe, like, comment, and share my YouTube. Share this page, share this channel. Let the more viewers we get, the more I'll know people are interested, the more help I'll give. I'm not greedy. I already won. It wasn't a fluke. I won thousands of dollars multiple times. I finally got the big one though, the million. So I'm going to go through screen by screen. We're going to use some screen capture. I'm going to cover things from the very beginning for beginner concepts all the way through much more advanced concepts. And yes, I do have some math, I do have some strategies, I do have things of my own, but it's nothing on a computer, it's nothing you're going to find here and there, you know. Those people, ask them what they want, ask them to show you. Now I'm going to show you. You're going to see this ain't BS. This is serious. Who wants to get some money? Subscribe, like, comment. I'll see you.
Alright guys, so you want to see what it looks like to win $1 million? Here you go. See Pendolino, first place right there. $1 million. Final score 192.18. Second place was 190.58. It was a close one, a nail biter. Up here you can see some of the entries I put in. All those were failures, all those were winners. Now if you want to look a little bit closer, here's the lineup. On the left is my lineup. You see right there Terrence Williams, Cowboys. In this particular contest, there was 447,610 entries. First place out of that is pretty crazy, huh? But anyways, you can see I had Tom Brady, Devontae Freeman, Ty Montgomery, Chris Hogan, Michael Crabtree, J.J. Nelson, Rob Gronkowski, Cairo Santos, and the Baltimore Ravens D.
Now, if anybody's qualified to give advice, well, it's probably me. Now, you may say it was a fluke, you may say this next guy's just as well, but the reality is I won $1 million. If I have something to say, you might want to listen, so let's go.
Alright, so for those of you who are unfamiliar, let's break down how exactly you score your points when you're playing fantasy football on a site like FanDuel. Here we have a breakdown of the scoring. For every rushing yard, every yard that a running back gets, a quarterback gets, or a receiver or tight end, fullback, any rushing yard that is gained by a player is 0.1 points. Rushing touchdown, 6 points. You can see the breakdown here. Pause it if you need to. But here's where you see what's vital. Obviously, the passing yards for a quarterback are 0.04, as opposed to rushing yards and receiving yards are 0.1. So you can see how the quarterback is not the most important player in fantasy. Passing touchdowns are 4 points. Receiving touchdowns, running touchdowns, those are 6 points. So in order for your quarterback to get 12 points off of yardage, they have to throw for 300 yards. In order for your receiver to get 12 points off yardage, he has to catch passes good enough for 120 yards. So you can kind of get an idea of the difference and how it breaks down.
So, as we were saying, this right here, FanDuel, is where I won $1 million. There's also DraftKings, there's other sites. I prefer FanDuel. Now, there's a lot of you who probably play. Some of you guys maybe play at work, you play at school, you play with your buddies, you play just in little leagues here and there, but online is where it's at. Yes, you have to put up some money to play, but the lineup that I played and won $1 million, it was a $7 entry. So $7 won $1 million. Sounds like a pretty good deal. So what we're going to do here on this channel is we're going to talk a lot about fantasy football. We're going to go through the ins and outs of all the different lineups you can play, all the different possibilities. We're going to talk about some of the methods that I use when I won, and we're going to highlight some things that you can do in the upcoming season.
When you're playing fantasy here on FanDuel, you have to pick a roster of 9 positions. What you have here, looking at the $1 million lineup, is 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, a kicker, and a defense. Now, this isn't quite like the NFL in terms of real life. In real life, the most important player on the field is the quarterback. In fantasy, the quarterback's worth about as much as a kicker. And that's because you can only choose 1 quarterback to play. On the other hand, you got 2 running backs and 3 wide receivers. The receivers are the bulk of your points. Look, right here we got 16.3, 29, 20.5. Throw in the tight end, you got 20.6. People who can catch the ball account for all those points of the lineup. Yes, Tom Brady put up over 30 in this lineup, but there's only 1 quarterback you can play. So the most important positions here are the running backs and the receivers. That's where you're going to get your points from, and that's why you have to have a depth of knowledge of the league. You can see right here the prices of each player. Tom Brady was 9,200, Freeman 8,100. And then look right here, Montgomery was 6,500. He was a little bit cheaper, and that might be why he was owned 28.7%. And Hogan, he was 6,200. Crabtree was 7,300. And Nelson, 5,300. Yet he put up 20.5 points. On the other side over here, Emmanuel Sanders, for this guy who was number 2, he had 21.2 and was only chosen 1.5%. So that's the difference. That's the difference in the game, having a depth of knowledge. And the other thing is, when you look at these lineups, this isn't the lineup you might look at and think, oh yeah, I got a winner right here. Because, I mean, the Falcons were playing the Packers. It was week 2. You would expect back and forth, passing game, Aaron Rodgers, 5 touchdowns, Matt Ryan, 4 touchdowns, Jordy Nelson, Julio Jones. No, that's not what happened. And often that's how it goes. You have to look deeper. You have to look at how each team is versus the run. You have to look at certain positions, see who has better matchups, see who has the advantage. Sometimes you have to adopt a contrarian view, which is, if it's more likely that a lot of people are going to play people related to the passing game in this contest, players who are either quarterbacks, receivers, or tight ends might end up having a higher percentage owned. So if you play what's on the contrary to that, such as the running backs, you might have an opportunity, if they have a good game, to get up on some people and have a chance to win. You have to strategize and outthink everybody at every turn.
Now, you may think, okay, you gotta win, 1 win, maybe you got lucky. Nah, that's not the case. I've won multiple times before. 5,000 here, 3,000 there, 8,000 here, 700 there. It varies. And no, I'm not one of those people who has fancy computer programs, all these mathematical algorithms created. That's not me. If that's what you're looking for, go ahead and leave. But if what you're looking for is a way to change your life, to make a lot of money, and to basically just improve your way of living, this is where you want to be. You don't need to be watching the parody videos. You don't need to be looking up the latest Taylor Swift video, see what's happening with the Kardashians. You don't need that. You don't need to look at who's eating Tide Pods. None of that. Come here, get your dose of fantasy football advice, up that IQ, and get ready to change your life. I'm going to help you do that.
Okay, so here's another random contest I was in. What we're going to look at here is not so much how I did. You can see down here in the corner, this one, I had one that won $3,000. But what we're looking at here is the positioning and the prizes available. The reason you want to enter multiple lineups, even if you put in that lineup that you know is a good lineup, well, there's many prizes available, so why are you going to stop right there? You certainly want to try to win multiple prizes. You see, first place is $1 million in this contest, but you have second place, 400,000, 200,000, and it goes on descending. And it's not like it's just going to be the top 10. It goes down for quite a while. See, here at the top 19, you're still 10,000. You keep going down. If you get 30th place, you're at 6,000. Let's go a few more pages here. You get 59th place, which I got in this one. It's 3,000. So it goes all the way down. I think the lowest you could win in this one was like $300 to $400 or so. So that's why you wanted to go ahead and enter a lot of lineups either way. This lineup right here, it was very, very solid, but it did not win. That was sad. But we had Dak. He had 26.58. We had Gurley and Williams, 27 and 27. Dez at 14.8. He was the stack. Dez and Dak. Then we had Hopkins with 30.4, Crabtree 11.5, Doyle 7.4, Coons 12, and the Cowboy defense. Now, let's look at some of the percents. The Cowboy defense was 5.9%. Jack Doyle was 4.3%. Hopkins was 34.6%. Dak 2.5%, Dez 6.2%. That was really good points right there, and they weren't that expensive. So when we talk about percents, we're talking about the number of people who pick these players out of the whole pool of players who are entered in the contest. So not a lot of people played Dak. Not a lot of people played Dez. A lot of people play DeAndre Hopkins. So that gives you an idea. You can win different amounts at different levels.
So here's what you got to ask yourself. Is this another guy trying to tell me how he's going to help me win in my fantasy league? No, I'm not. I'm not here to talk about your fantasy league. I'm here to talk about something bigger. And that's winning real money. Not that $800 in your work league. Not that $600 in your school league. We're talking about winning the big time money here on sites like FanDuel and DraftKings. So rule number one is you have to leave out all biases you might have. Now, what does that mean? You could be a Raider hater, you could be a Cowboy hater, you could hate Tom Brady. But at the end of the day, that doesn't mean anything. Because if you want to go to bed at night and be happy that you're a hater, that's fine. But that's to put it simply, because really what happens is if you hate these teams so much with a passion, you overlook them on Sunday. And you got to put your own personal biases aside. It doesn't matter how much you love the 49ers, how much you love the Cowboys, how much you hate the Raiders, how much you hate the Rams. None of that matters. What matters is who's going to have the most favorable matchup at a bargain price on Sunday, and that's what you need to focus on. A good story is a few years back, the Patriots, they were blown out. It was against the Chiefs, and everyone was talking about Brady's done, Belichick's done. This was a few years ago. The very next week I knew Brady doesn't lose twice like that. I played him, I played Gronk. Brady threw 5 touchdown passes. I won $5,000 on that one. Now, I've never been anti-Brady. I was okay with him either way. But all my lineups that have won the most have always had Brady and Gronkowski in them together. So that's just an example. A lot of people out there, they don't like the Patriots. They don't like the Cowboys. I'm a Dallas fan. That aside, whether you like them or not, that's not what matters. If you want to go to bed poor, go to bed poor. If you want to go to bed rich, go to bed rich. You decide.
So you can see right here the percents of how many people played them out of those 400,000 plus. Somebody like J.J. Nelson right here, he put up 20.5 points, and he was only played about, 6.1%. Now on the other side over here, you can see what this guy in second place did. He had Tom Brady, he had Montgomery Freeman, Crabtree, Hogan, he had Emmanuel Sanders, but Travis Kelce, 20.3, Rob Gronkowski, 20.6, very close. Defense, same defense, but right here, the kicker. The kicker decided it. Oh, and look at that. The kicker from my team, and I didn't go with him, even though he's on my team. And it probably would have looked like going into a game against Denver, he would have a good game. That's what I mean. Check your bias at the door. Don't be poor.
So our goal here is to make sure we get the most points possible at the best value. What that means is you're not going to be able to play the number one quarterback with the number one running back, with the number one receiver, with the number one tight end. An example might be you're not going to be able to stack Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski. You're not going to be able to put in Gurley in that lineup. You're not going to be able to put in Antonio Brown in that lineup. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to be able to just go through and pick, the best of the best players, the most known players. That's not what this is about. You have to have a depth of knowledge across the whole league, every team. You need to know who that third receiver is on the Jaguars. You need to know who that third receiver is on the Bills. You need to know who that third receiver is on the Eagles. You need to know who that second running back is on the Broncos. You have to have a depth of knowledge in order to be successful, because that's where you're going to find the bargains. That's where you're going to find the value. And that's what it's about when you're on a site like FanDuel and you're trying to win $1 million, $500,000, $200,000. Find value.
So when we talk about the scoring, it certainly favors the running back receiver combination in terms of where you're going to get your most points. That's not to say the quarterback's not important. Picking the right quarterback can be the difference in your victory. Now, if you play a quarterback who puts up 40 points versus a quarterback who puts up 20 points, obviously that just changed your whole lineup. But the thing is, you're going to get the majority of your points from your receivers and your running backs. Now, another important thing to keep in mind here, if you're playing multiple lineups, because you can enter a contest as many times as you want up into the limit for that particular contest. For example, the $1 million contest, the $7 entries, it usually has a max of 150, meaning you could enter that contest at $7 per entry up to 150 times. Now, obviously, you're probably not going to want to put in 150 lineups. Now you're playing a lot of money. But just saying as an example, you can enter multiple times. So let's say you really think that this player is going to have a good game. Maybe it's Aaron Rodgers. You play him in 20 lineups and you play a total of 20 lineups. What happens if he has a bad game? What happens if he plays well, but the running back has a good game? What happens if he gets injured in the first quarter? All of a sudden, boom, every lineup is killed right there. You have to have variety in your lineups. If you don't, you'll lose. That's just it. That's how it goes. So if you're playing 20 lineups, maybe you say, okay, I like these four quarterbacks. I'm going to give each one of them five lineups and change the players that are with them in each lineup. Now, it's true, if Aaron Rodgers has a great game and you play him in 20 lineups, you're going to do spectacular. But the problem is, do you want to take that kind of risk? It's not mathematically smart. Don't do it. Spread out your options. Go with what's more probable, and that's to be safe. Now, on the flip side, if you have 20 lineups and somebody out there goes out and puts up 50 points, let's say you don't play that person one time, and it could be at any position, well, you're not going to win a top prize. You may not win anything at all. So you really have to be aware of those matchups and have a true depth of knowledge, a deep football IQ when it comes to rosters.
A couple years back, I had this lineup, right? I won $5,000 on it. It was the one I was talking about after that game where the Chiefs blew out the Patriots. So the night before, it's 2 a.m. in the morning, I'm updating my lineup. And I have Martavius Bryant in there. Now, I think this was his rookie year. It was like his second game that he was starting. He's not a big guy. He had a pretty good game. He had like 19 fantasy points the week before, something like that. I have him in the lineup. I have it ready to go. First place in that, I believe first place in that entry was 200,000. I have Martavius Bryant in the lineup. I take him out the night before. It was like 2 a.m. Okay, I take him out. I put in Justin Hunter, Titans player at the time. The next day, Sunday, Monday, okay, I check, I see I'm doing well. I'm winning 20,000. It goes down to 16. It goes down to 10. It ends up at 5. Now I go back and I look. What if I hadn't put Justin Hunter in? What if I had left Martavius Bryant in? So taking out Martavius Bryant that night, it was the difference between $100,000 and $5,000. So that little move, that little edit of mine, cost me $95,000. So little mistakes can happen like that, and they matter. And that was one I never forgot about all these years. Of course, now I'm like, who cares, right? I'd rather win 1,000,000 like I did than win 100,000. But little things like that, you have to pay attention to detail. Like with the Patriots, we stack Brady, we stack Gronk. A stack means if you're going to say this quarterback is going to have a big game, then that means a receiver of his is going to have a big game. So you want to put them together because it's more likely than not if you're right on the quarterback, as long as you pick one of his receivers or tight ends or running backs, you're going to almost be getting like double the points. As for instance, let's say you have Ben Roethlisberger. If you have Big Ben in the lineup and he throws a touchdown pass, he gets 4 points for that touchdown. But if you put Antonio Brown with him and he gets the touchdown reception, he gets 6 points. So now you just got 10 points just off of touchdowns. And then, of course, you get the yardage, the catch, all of that. So that's what a stack is.
Okay, so let's take a look at how some of this math might break down. Let's say that we have the 49ers at the Rams. Now, first thing we want to do is look at the Vegas line. Basically, what Vegas thinks the final score is going to be, who the favorite is, and how many points they estimate to be scored. Now, this is where you're going to let Vegas do some of the work for you. Now, the people who make the odds, they're trying to make the best possible profit scenario for their casinos, blah, 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 who cares? But where you can use this and apply it to fantasy is right here. So let's say that the Rams are a 4-point favorite over the 49ers. This is to say that the Rams are expected to beat the 49ers by 4 points. Now, you're going to have a line like this every Sunday for every game. The -4 right here indicates who the favorite is. The +4 indicates who the underdog is, so to speak. And the 42 right here is the expected total combined points by each team in terms of what the final score will be. When you add however many points the Rams score plus however many points the 49ers score, you're going to have this much points according to Vegas going into the week. So if we want to break down the math, what we do is we take the 42 points, divide it by 2 because there's 2 teams, and we get 21. Then we divide the point total right here, or the amount the team is expected to win or lose by 2 because there's two teams. So we get 21 minus 2 equals 19. Now we do the same thing for the Rams, except when we get to right here, instead of minusing 2, we're going to add 2. So 21 plus 2 equals 23. So right here, as you can see, we get 19 for the 49ers, 23 for the Rams. There's a 4-point difference. And remember, the Rams are favored to win by 4. And if we add 23 and 19, we get 42, the total number of points. But whether this happens or not is really inconsequential. What matters here is that based on all the research all these fat cats in Vegas are doing, it's giving a general idea of what's going to happen. Whether or not the Rams win this game, whether they win by 4, whether they win by 10, whatever the case may be, when you do this math for all the games on Sunday, and you isolate this number right here, the 23, it's the higher scoring point total of this game. So we're going to look at every game. Let's say there's 16 games. Let's say it's week 1, even though there wouldn't be 16. But let's just say there's 16 games on a day. We're going to look at the math for all games. We're going to take the top 5 or 6 point totals by a team, and that's going to give us the top 5 or 6 teams to look at, to pull players from when we create our lineup. There's no bias here. There's no, oh, I like the Cowboys, oh, I like the Raiders, oh, I like 49ers. Doesn't matter. We're going to go specifically from that list of our math. Now, you might say, well, how does that apply? You just said this team may not win at all. They may lose. They may win by 1 point. They may end up having a lower point total than other teams. That stuff's all valid. But I do this each week, and each week it works. The reason I played Crabtree in that $1 million lineup, the reason I played J.J. Nelson in that $1 million lineup, the reason I played Devontae Freeman and Montgomery when it looked like that was going to be a pass-heavy game, the reason I did that was because the math showed that that was where to go. That was the direction. Now, you still have to apply some general football IQ because you're basically going to get, okay, the Cardinals are a top team, the Raiders are a top team, the Patriots are a top team. So now you got to take the right players from those teams and plug them into the lineup. But now that's where we go back to how I played 30 lineups. So the amount of variation I can do between 30 lineups and having the top 5 or 6 teams and point totals and applying different players and different combinations into those 30 lineups is going to more likely than not create the type of results that I would like. So this is a brief idea of how that math is done. We'll get into it more as we proceed.
So what is my pledge to you? My pledge to you is that if you follow this system, if you watch these broadcasts, if you subscribe to my philosophy, at the end of the day, the end of the week, the end of the season, you're going to be able to say, the champ is here. and that champ would be you. And that's what I'm here to help you do. Win. Like, subscribe, comment, get rich. This is my story, and this is how I became a millionaire with fantasy football. Like I said, I had a $7 entry. I won $1 million. Now, obviously, if you play one $7 entry, you could win, you could do well, but you usually have to play a little more. That weekend that I won, I played 30 lineups, so at $7 each, that was $210. So overall, $210 won $1 million. But in reality, a $7 entry won $1 million. So I know you're thinking, how am I going to translate this into winning for me? It's simple. If you follow this philosophy, you're going to get where you need to be. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to go out there and win $1 million week one, but you're going to notice that your lineups are winning more, and you're going to notice that you're doing better. And as you keep doing it and you stick at it, you're going to get that big win. It doesn't happen overnight, but you got to start somewhere, and this is where you start. So stay tuned and stick around, because we have a lot of videos coming, and you don't want to miss one. See ya. So when it comes to fantasy football, we're only about one thing: winning, and winning big. This is what it's about, being the champion.